Today, as a partnership, we mark the 1 year anniversary of the Erdington Task Force. The partnership came together in response to this terrible pandemic, which has sadly touched so many lives. And like communities up and down the country, many of us have been affected and lost loved ones. At the bleakest of times can and often does bring out the best in people. And in Erdington, we saw this in abundance, witnessing acts of kindness, compassion, togetherness, and an unflinching resolve in our local communities, volunteers, and organizations. Our task force came together with that determination that no one should be left behind, and that together we are stronger. That spirit of collaboration is as strong today as it was a year ago, if not stronger. And we will hear about the work from our partners and the people who've made this possible.
We have lived through the worst crisis since World War II. What we have seen has been truly dreadful. But what we have also witnessed has been the remarkable community spirit of a strong community in Erdington. For us, it's been about saving lives, campaigning, for example, for action by government in relation to the deaths in care homes, for the proper provision of protective clothing. We won testing facilities in the Highcroft and King Standing, encouraging local citizens to abide by the rules to save themselves, but also their friends and families. And now our Be Safe and Get Vaccinated campaign, where 15,000 local people we have approached to ensure that they do that which is absolutely essential to protect themselves, but to protect the community in which they live. Saving livelihoods. We have acted from the start. We played a pivotal role in the winning of the furlough scheme. At one stage, there were 16,000 people in Erdington on the furlough scheme. We've acted to save two major workplaces locally from closure. We've acted to ensure that hundreds of businesses have been supported throughout this crisis, and we've acted to ensure that thousands of workers remain in their job. And building for the future, we have acted to establish the North Birmingham Economic Recovery Plan, a remarkable coming together of people who can make a difference, decent jobs, good jobs for the future. And finally, we've acted to build back better, because when we come through this dreadful crisis, as we are determined that we will, there can be no going back to where we were before. Erdington is rich in talent, but it is one of the poorest communities in the country. And so crucially, therefore, we're acting in the here and now to create jobs, to strengthen the community, to ensure that Erdington goes from strength to strength. We've seen the best of Erdington, the best is yet to come.
The positive power of social media brought over 1,000 people who live in and around Erdington together. 74 of those people went out on a regular basis to help people in need in Erdington. In total, we delivered over 12,000 food parcels, and all of this has been done without a penny spent, purely on the power of volunteers. All of what we've done could not have been possible without the professional agencies on this partnership, and I thank you all for putting up with me at these meetings on a weekly basis.
As David just finished and powerfully mentioned, obviously, about and reflected on food and food poverty, and how communities, in particular Erdington and the surrounding areas, struggled with food, and how organisations supported, come together. It was amazing. And obviously, over the last year, we've, as an organisation called Tours as well, we supported a lot of organisations with food distribution and also getting that food out there.
I guess the 23rd of March last year is a day that none of us will ever forget, and I think probably will live with us for the rest of our lives. The things that happened very quickly was, and we understood, was that COVID magnified a lot of long-standing issues. Some of the clients and the people who were affected by COVID and were isolated, they were more isolated, and they were the worst affected, with no one to talk to and nowhere to go. And this partnership and the people within this partnership became a lifeline to many, many people. And I don't think it should be underestimated the magnitude of that task and what had happened with that. The need for advice, especially with with furlough and everything that went along with it, became a kind of a mainstay. The need for that is growing and will continue to grow. Erdington itself currently has a 13% unemployment rate, which, you know, which some will be the thing that we will be dealing with long after restrictions are lifted. And I think that's a really, really important thing to kind of think about as well.
The pandemic shone a light on challenges that were facing children, young people, families, and the wider community. And they weren't new challenges. Food poverty, data poverty, relational poverty, poor mental health. COVID-19 blew the lid off those challenges, and the task force and a family of individuals, of volunteers, of community and faith organisations responded with creativity, innovation, and collaboration. We sought to address need and to spark joy. We partnered with schools, and we were simply present online and in the community. And amidst this, we've seen children and young people tackling injustice and showing incredible kindness. And they've reminded us that they are not problems to be solved, but they're beacons of hope to build a brighter tomorrow. And that's the tomorrow that we're all committed to contributing to.
Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those who've lost a loved one and been affected by the pandemic this year across our neighbourhoods in Erdington. But what we have seen is a community caring for each other, whether it be through organised groups like Spitfire Services, Pioneer, Urban Devotion, Witten Lodge Community Association, or volunteers coming together like the outstanding Erdington community volunteers. People have come together to provide food and support for their neighbours across our area. And that's something we can be incredibly proud of. And to check on their neighbours and to make sure they were coping during this time of crisis. What we've also seen is a pride and togetherness in our area. You've seen groups coming together like Erdington Litterbusters and Stockland Green Action Group to help clean up our area. You've seen the community come together, like in the picture that's on the slide, to take a blighted street corner by the old Mapland site and turn it into a wonderful mural celebrating our community here across Erdington and North Birmingham. We've truly, in this darkest hour of the global pandemic, seen the very best of Erdington. And while it's been a horrible year, above all else, we can be proud of what our community has done for each other.
I think community safety prior to COVID arriving on our shores meant something totally different. It was crime and disorder. I think we've added a new definition to community safety, as in us all looking after each other. I think the task force has been imperative really to build relationships with partners you've worked with before, but perhaps not on such a close-knit basis. And the beauty of having all the partners at the task force is mean you can deal really, really fast with people who can make a difference. So if one of the partners has got an issue, they've got an immediate bounce back from the other partners on advice or help. Community tension, the police were always asking us to notify them if there was any tension about anything in Erdington constituency. To me, the celebration of successes, really, and by successes, I mean those stories where people have come and said, I don't know what we would have done if without the help that people have given us, not just the task force, but all their neighbours, and the kindness and the caring, as Assel said, that's come in abundance. So I think we need to take pride in what we've done. There's more to do, but let's celebrate but also commemorate.
With this pandemic, as someone said, we are all in the same storm, but we are not all in the same boat. And deep-rooted inequalities have been exposed and amplified. And against this kind of really tough backdrop, we were keen to develop a local economic response and adopted a three-pronged approach. First was to respond immediately to those that had lost their jobs or were at risk of losing their jobs, and help them move back into work as quickly as possible. Secondly, we know that the pandemic has disproportionately affected certain groups and neighborhoods. And at the same time, we have iconic and landmark developments happening in our part of the world with the Commonwealth Games, HS2, and the Pedamore development. And we're working hard to connect the needs and aspirations of local communities with these developments and the opportunities that will flow from them. And the third and final thing, I suppose, is to kind of reimagine a better future where we value all of our key workers, including shop workers, drivers, and cleaners. And if we can, to help create and retain wealth in our local communities that will enable us to achieve that longer term transformation of our neighborhoods and communities.
Fundraising and resources have been very important to the work that we do, but what's more important is the outcomes that we've been able to deliver as a partnership. And in the beginning, we faced a crisis, and the first thing we thought of is what we were going to do to support our people and our communities in Erdington, and not to think about spreadsheets and where we were going to get the money from. That said, through the year, we've worked hard to raise funding, and indeed, we've raised specifically around £1 million of external funding and channeled those into projects, initiatives. But the funding that we get isn't just about the budgets that we all have. It isn't just about the fundraising that we're successful in bidding for, but it's about the volunteer hours. It's about the acts of kindness. It's about what we show to our community, and you can't put a value to that. And you can see some of the brilliant initiatives that have flourished and emerged in just 12 months. So those are the important things, those initiatives. Money less important, but it has helped us serve what we have delivered in 12 months. Thank you.
From the beginning, we knew we needed to communicate to Erdington residents in as quick as way as possible, and making sure it was relevant to all our local people on our doorsteps. And we very quickly found new ways to do that. We worked together to create leaflets that we could deliver door to door or through the food parcel deliveries. We've looked to see how we could connect people while feeling really isolated, delivering workshops or concerts for people wherever they were, going out to them, or finding ways to deliver gifts and packs to them. That work will continue. We still need to communicate with each other. We still need to feel connected. And we are going to be continuing with all these campaigns working together.
So all faiths, I come from the Christian faith, but Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus have been very much expressing their faith in practice, either by sort of helping out, as other people have been helping out, in terms of community, in terms of food banks, in terms of other things. But we've already heard about those things. And then sadly, of course, very much faith is involved at those tragic times of life, as well as the joyous times of life, as people turn, having lost loved ones. And the churches and the mosques have been very involved in helping people at these terrible times, shed their tears and supporting. So in all sorts of ways, in practice, in death, and in challenge, the faith communities have done their part along with others and shown those gifts of love and joy and peace and patience and gentleness and faith, meekness and self-control. And we join with everybody else in being part of a wonderful community that has so often reflected those positive fruits of love.
Hopefully, as a result of what you've heard, you have a really good feel for who we are, what we do, and importantly, how we work together as a partnership. And whilst we have achieved much, there is so much more to do as we emerge from this pandemic. The task force has built strong foundations. And as always, we remain open to and welcoming to those that wish to join us. And please let us know of anyone that needs our support. So it just leaves me to thank all of our colleagues for their hard work, their commitment and determination that has made all of this possible. And we will finish with this infographic, which shows the impact of our work. and contact details should you wish to get in touch with us.